Today we're going to go over how to get your cropping and kinetics exercises into your compendium template. So from Illustrator to InDesign. So the first thing we need to do is open your current compendium template that you have in InDesign, and then also open your cropping and kinetics exercises in Illustrator. So when I go into InDesign, I should have something like this, where I have a blank cover, my anatomy assignment 1, assignment 2, and then a new page for the cropping exercises. And in Illustrator, what I'd like everybody to do is, I know we had 2 pages of the 16 best, but now we're going to go down to a final 9 that we'll work with today. So you should have something like this. You may want to play around with positive and negative and think about the overall layout that you're putting together. We're going to work with just a basic grid of 9, and we're just going to start off by copying and pasting from Illustrator into InDesign. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that our type is outlined in Illustrator, because when we copy and paste from Illustrator to InDesign, the type itself will default and it'll actually print with jagged edges on it. So this is a pretty simple step that you need to do for all your cropping exercises that you're going to copy and paste over. So before you even do that, let's just make sure we save a new version, because we're going to be more or less flattening the type, where we can't change the typeface anymore when we create outlines out of it. And I will do the same in InDesign. I'm just going to make this a new template as well. It's a good rule of thumb anytime you're working on new sections or new parts to just make a new version of the file you're working with. Okay, so back in Illustrator. So for example, the P here is still set as a typeface. So to convert to outlines, you'll go under Type, Create Outlines. And what this does is it takes the typeface itself and converts it to paths and shapes. So then you really can't edit this type anymore. You can still scale and rotate and work with it, but you can't select the typeface like I have Garamond here and change it to Futura. So once you create outlines, you're more or less flattening the type. Another way to, without having to go up to the menu and to type, is to control click, and you can create outlines that way as well. Also, if I select the type and just do Shift Command O, it will create outlines as well. So the last one is in a clipping mask. So to actually create outlines of type in a clipping mask, what you want to do is double click it, and now you'll have the type selected in the mask. You'll do the same thing and just come back out of the group. So then we can select the type, Command C, then over to InDesign, and on the page we want to work with, Command V. And if you hit Command colon, it'll pop up the grid. And what we'll do is we'll just align this type off that grid. You just Command C, Command V. The same for the last one, Command C. And if you do Command Tab, that's how you can tab through your programs quickly. And V again. So with the grid, what I want to do is make sure that I'm working within the 2 columns of the text type. So again, I'm aligning the first design here. You can kind of see the alignment is a little bit off here. So just going to select it. And you can do it by hand, or if you use the Align tool, which is under Window, an Object and Layout, and Align. What it'll do is they'll be in your palettes then. So if I select all of these, I can align them to the top. You can see we have a little bit of glitch here with this other one. And then we want to make sure that our gutters are equal between the three objects. So again, if you select all three and you hit Distribute Objects Horizontally, it'll make sure that this spacing between our cropping studies is equal. So then we want to just continue to copy and paste over. And when you're dragging it up, if you hold Shift, it'll actually snap in place. And you can see it starts to align based on the set of type studies that you have above. It already starts to create a grid for you. And then our last set. And again, Command colon will turn it on and off. And we can just zoom in to make sure it's aligned properly. Again, if you hold Shift, it'll snap into place. And if you didn't clipping mask and the image is too big, all you have to do is do Object, Arrange, Send to Back, and it'll push that study behind. We can kind of see that this isn't aligned on our grid, so we just want to push it over a little bit more to match up with the P. And your cropping studies should start to look something like this, in a nice clean grid with good set columns and good spacing. So the last step of putting our cropping studies together is to get our text from the class Canvas. So the next step is to log into the class Canvas site and click on the anatomy cropping exercise. Then you'll scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there's the text for cropping. So what we'll do is we'll just select all this text, Command C, and then when we go to paste this into the page is locked. If you remember, we talked about master pages before and how they set a template specifically for your grid, but also for your type and for your title type. It helps create standards and consistency throughout your document. So to edit this, what we want to do is go to Pages, and you can get the Pages under Window as well if this isn't up. you just click on the page you want to work with, hit Control click, override all master page items. What this will allow you to do is select the text now. We don't need this title. What we're going to do is select this text here and delete it. Select this text here and delete it. And then we're just going to paste our text into place. So you can see that it runs into our examples here. And we have a nice layout form. It's consistent with the previous page. What we want to do, and you should see a little plus arrow here, it means the text, there's more text running down into this kind of imaginary space. If you click on the plus, you'll be able to flow it into the next text box. And this is how you flow text in InDesign from one column to the next. This is very useful to know how to do. You also control this and the overall look. If we just push this up, and then make sure that this aligns at the top, it creates a more clean typographic page for you. So again, rather than flowing all this text in one column and having a weird negative space on the right, we can flow two columns of text and have a nice sense of space and layout with that. The last thing we want to do is come in and put the title of the assignment in place. So we're just going to put cropping. And so you should have a page that looks something like this. So the second part of our demo today will be getting your Kinetics assignment into InDesign. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we've saved recently. So I'm just going to save my file. And we need to add an extra page to our template. So under Window, you bring up the Pages tool, and it should be along the right side here to work with in the future. And we have a left page and a right page in our master. We're just going to drag the left page down, and now we have a new template to work with. Again, if you hit Command:, it'll give us the grid. This will help set it up when we copy and paste in. So now we're just going to toggle over to Illustrator, and I have my compendium. I have my Kinetics exercises here, kind of ready to go. One of the big things we want to do is actually create a clipping mask. I know some of you maybe have overlapped with a white box just to kind of get things done. What we want to do is go through and actually clipping mask each one of your layouts. So the easiest way to do that, and it's the same way as the cropping exercise, is you just want to draw a window box like before, and you're just going to put it over top of all your design, and then select the whole thing, Control click, make clipping mask. And this will be a lot easier than the copy and paste over. So after that step, what we want to do is, if you double click and go inside, we're going to do the same as we did with our cropping exercises. We're going to go to Type, Create Outline. We're going to create an outline for each one of the pieces of type. So again, you can go to the window for Type and then Create Outline. You can Control click it and create outline, or you can do Shift Command O to create an outline. So I'm going to go through and do that for each one. So again, we're inside the clipping mask in doing this. And then I just get it outside the clipping mask. I can select the whole thing. I can do Edit, Copy, or Command-C. Then I'll go over to InDesign and Command-V. And we can see that it's a little bit too big for the page that we're working with, so we're going to actually scale down our Kinetics to fit the page a little bit better. So at the top column here, when you're deselected, it doesn't have the option to scale. If I select the object that we've copied and pasted in, there's a percentage here. Right now it's to 100% scale. So what we're going to do is actually scale it down to about 70%, and if we hit return, just make sure this is linked so that it applies it to scaling both vertically and horizontally. So if I hit return, it will scale the entire design. And then we're just going to line it up like we've done in the past. So something like that. And then we just want to go back and we're going to do the same thing for our other designs. So you'll have a clipping mask and then select the text for each one. So I'm just going to copy and paste these in because I've already made the clipping mask and outlined all the type. So I'm going to copy, Command C. Once it pastes in, you just want to look at a nice spacing, so maybe something around here. And then you'll do it with the other two remaining studies that you had. So I'm going to Command C, Command V. And again, you want to make sure that you set it to scale at 70%. So each one has to scale down to 70 each time. Again, when I hold Shift, it'll actually recognize, as you can see on the right, it'll show the distance that's equal between each design, and that's what we're looking for, so you have control of that spacing in the presentation. So now we just need to toggle over to Illustrator again and copy our last one and paste. Again, it should snap into place so that our spacing is correct between each one and our alignment is aligned off the left column here. You can see we have a nice clean presentation of all of our studies with plenty of white space because again, everybody's design has a lot going on, so we want to give it enough space so that you can kind of look at it without it feeling too busy. A lot of that is not to crowd the space around the actual design itself. So basic formatting like this, because there's plenty of negative space to kind of be able to take in the design. So our last step, just like before, because we have a master page that we're working with, we want to copy and paste the text out of the class canvas into our page. So if we, again, if you don't have pages up, bring your pages up, Control click, override all master page items. This allows us to select text. We will go to the class canvas. Make sure you select assignment 4, typographic kinetics. And then all the way at the bottom will be the text. So just simply select it all. Command C. Command V. And again, this is a similar situation as before. We have text that's flowing into our design. We obviously don't want this kind of, I wouldn't say chaos, it just makes it really messy and it's a really poor presentation of content. So I'm going to come over to the second text box here, delete that text out, click on the arrow tool, click on the text box, again the little red button here, plus, I'm going to click that and click where the other text box is. Now we can see in the layout of the text we got all this extra space here and we're crowding the space here. We can control the flow of the paragraph again by just pulling this up. And so we're looking for a nice 2-column paragraph setting. So right now this kind of works a lot better than what we previously had, as you can see. This leaves a really weird negative space. So just try to control your text and your presentation of your text. So something like this looks much, much better. We can delete this title here. Again, Command A, or you can double click the text. We're just going to put in Kinetics for the title. So again, in summary, when you're working in Illustrator here, you'll want to make sure that you make a mask over top of this so that you can copy and paste it in. Also making sure that you've outlined each one of the pieces of type before you copy and paste it over, because it will default. So again, box over your composition, create clipping mask, double click inside the clipping mask, and you can select the text and outline it before you copy and paste it over. So your final composition should look something like this. So again, you should have your cropping exercises and a nice clean page, and your kinetics exercises and a nice clean page. That concludes our demo. Thank you.